Robert Caldwell stood at the floor-to-ceiling windows of his penthouse office, watching the Manhattan skyline glitter against the fading twilight. 48 stories below, the city pulsed in its relentless rhythm, horns echoing between the high-rises, headlights drawing silver lines across the avenues. Yet none of that movement could distract him from the weight pressing into his chest. For the second time in a year, the world he thought he understood had cracked open again. The pieces scattered across the mahogany desk behind him like shrapnel. The divorce papers he'd signed. 6 months earlier, papers he had pretended would give him closure lay unfolded next to a handwritten note. Catherine's handwriting was unmistakable, elegant and composed, a stark contrast to the turmoil it always left inside him. "There's truth you never knew. Meet me at Bellini's, 8 p.m. tonight." He had read it a dozen times since morning, and each time it left a bruise somewhere deep inside. She had been the one who walked away, the one who asked for space, the one who said the marriage had become quiet in all the wrong ways. Robert had accepted it because fighting for something already slipping through his fingertips felt like humiliation. But now, with that single note, she had reversed everything he thought was final. He loosened his tie, exhaled long, and tried to steady the tremor he felt building in his hands. At 42, he'd built Caldwell Enterprises from a garage startup with 2 interns into one of the most influential digital security empires in the world. He had survived tech crashes, hostile acquisitions, internal betrayals, even a cyber attack that nearly shut down the stock exchange. He had never once hesitated in a boardroom. But the complexities of his personal life, the silent dinners, the distance between 2 people sharing one bed, the emotional debt neither ever acknowledged, those were things no business strategy had prepared him for. A soft knock on the office door pulled him back to the room. "Sir, the car's waiting," his assistant Mia said gently. She was young but sharp, the kind of person who could sense a storm simply by the air around Robert. His silence today had said more than any meeting memo. He nodded, grabbed his coat, and stepped into the private elevator. The descent from the 48th floor to the lobby felt longer than usual. Each passing number on the screen reminded him how deep he was sinking into uncertainty. When the doors opened, the cool rush of lobby air met his face, and for a moment he let himself breathe. The driver opened the door of the black Bentley, and Robert slid inside. The leather interior smelled familiar, grounding him, but his mind remained restless. The city lights flickered past the window as the car moved toward Bellini's, the upscale Italian restaurant where he had proposed to Catherine 12 years ago. A place frozen in memory, a place he had avoided since the divorce. As the Bentley stopped in front of Bellini's awning, he saw her through the glass. Catherine, seated at a corner table, untouched wine glass in front of her, looking almost exactly as he remembered her. Graceful, controlled, and yet there was something different tonight, something rigid in her posture, something wary in her eyes. He walked inside. She stood up slowly, not smiling, not cold, just unfinished. "Robert," she greeted softly. "Catherine." They sat. For a moment, neither spoke. The air between them held months of silence and 12 years of everything else. Finally, she placed an envelope on the table, sliding it toward him like a confession she had rehearsed but still feared. "You need to see this," she said, voice low. "What is it?" "The truth I should have told you before the divorce." Before everything, he opened the envelope. Inside was a birth certificate, a name he didn't recognize, but a last name that tore the air out of his lungs. Caldwell. He looked up sharply. Catherine swallowed hard. "Robert?" Her voice broke. "We have a son." For a moment, the noise of the entire restaurant vanished. The room spun. His breath caught in his chest like something had lodged itself there. A son. Impossible. She would never, but she was not lying. Her eyes carried too much fear, too much regret, too much truth. "How long?" His voice was barely a whisper. 11 years. His pulse hammered. You kept my child hidden for 11 years. Tears formed in her eyes, but she blinked them back. It wasn't supposed to be like this. There were reasons you don't know. Reasons tied to your company. 2 things that were happening back then. What things? He demanded. Things someone didn't want you to know. Someone who still doesn't. He stared at her, shock sharpening into something darker. Who? He asked. Before she could answer, the restaurant door opened and a tall man in a gray coat stepped inside. Catherine's face drained of color the moment she saw him. Robert. She whispered urgently. Whatever happens, don't let him leave. He's the one, but the man turned, noticed her, noticed Robert, and bolted out the door. Robert stood so fast his chair toppled over. Catherine grabbed his arm. He'll run. He always runs. Don't let him, but Robert was already out the door and sprinting into the Manhattan night. Cold air slapped against Robert's face as he burst out of Bellini's, his eyes scanning the crowded sidewalk for the man in the gray coat. New York's night rush blurred around him, honking cabs, pedestrians weaving between each other, a distant wail of a siren, but all he could focus on was the shadow slipping into the street. There, he muttered, sprinting harder. The man dashed across the road, nearly getting hit by a delivery truck, then shoved past a group of tourists. Robert followed, adrenaline burning through the shock still ricocheting inside him. A son, Catherine, lies spanning 11 years. A stranger watching them from across a restaurant. Nothing made sense. And yet everything pointed to something far larger than a broken marriage. The crowd thickened near the corner. And Robert pushed through, ignoring curses being thrown at him. The man turned sharply into an alley beside a bookstore. Robert ran after him, shoes thudding against wet pavement. But as soon as he entered the narrow passageway, he stopped. The alley was empty. Silent, fresh footprints marked the puddle near the wall, but they led nowhere, as if the man had vanished into thin air. What the hell? Robert whispered. He stepped deeper into the alley, searching behind dumpsters, behind the metal staircase, behind every shadow he could find. Nothing. No movement. No sound. Only the distant hum of the city beyond. Footsteps echoed behind him. He spun around, fists clenched only to find Catherine. Breathless, coat clutched around her. Robert, don't, he's dangerous, she gasped. Who is he? Robert demanded. What's going on, Catherine? Why did he run? Why do I have a son I never knew existed? Her eyes softened with pain, but she kept her posture steady. We should go somewhere safe. Not here. I'm not moving until you tell me something real, he said firmly. No more vague lines, no more hidden truths. You owe me answers, she exhaled. Fine, but not in this alley, please. He watched her for a long second, the fear in her eyes too genuine to ignore. Finally, he nodded. They walked back to the street, found the Bentley waiting, and slid inside. Once the doors closed and the city noise faded, she finally spoke. His name is Ethan, she began quietly. He's 11. He looks like you, talks like you, thinks like you. Every time I look at him, I see the man I married, not the man you became later. That doesn't answer why you never told me, Robert said, voice cold, controlled, but trembling underneath. I didn't hide him because I wanted to, she replied, turning toward him. I hid him because someone made me. His jaw tightened. Who? She looked away. Someone from your company. Someone who said that if I kept the child secret, I would be protecting you and protecting our son. Someone who said your life would be in danger if anyone knew. Robert stared at her, stunned. My life. He echoed, from what? I run a tech security company, Catherine. I'm not in organized crime. Not all threats come from criminals. Robert, she said softly. Sometimes they come from the people closest to you. The words cut deeper than she could know. "That man tonight," Robert said. "The one who ran. Was he the one who threatened you?" She hesitated, then nodded. Double quotes, "Yes. His name is Adrian Locke. He used to be part of your executive team. Strategic development. You promoted him yourself." Robert's eyes widened. "Adrian. He left the company years ago after claiming a family emergency." "Family emergency was a lie," she said. "He was forced out. And when he left, he took something with him. Something that could destroy you and everything you built." Robert leaned back, stunned. "What did he take?" "Files," she whispered. "Files about your early investors. Files about a deal you backed away from. Files that could tie you to someone dangerous even, though you had no idea what was happening behind the scenes." "Catherine," Robert said slowly. "What deal?" The car grew heavier with silence. "A deal with the Moretti Group." Robert froze. The Morettas were not a business family, they were a global shadow network masquerading behind legitimate companies. 10 years ago, one of their intermediaries had approached Robert about becoming their exclusive cybersecurity supplier. He had turned them down, firmly, aggressively, because he had sensed something off. Now Catherine was telling him it had been worse than he imagined. "When you rejected the deal, you made enemies," Catherine continued. "And Adrian? Adrian chose the winning side. He tried to guide you toward saying yes. When you didn't, they fired him internally. He blamed you." Robert's chest tightened. "And the child. How does Ethan fit into this?" Catherine swallowed hard. "When Adrian Real..." Robert's eyes narrowed. Not the only secret. His voice was low, but the tension in it could slice glass. Catherine's fingers gripped the edge of her seat. "There's more than just Ethan. 11 years ago, there was another child. You never knew because Adrian made sure you didn't. Her voice caught. We thought it was the only way to protect both of them." Robert felt his heart stop. Another child. How could this be? The world he had painstakingly controlled, the empire he had built brick by brick, now felt like sand slipping through his fingers. Where is this other child? He demanded. Catherine hesitated. "I don't know. Adrian took him immediately after birth. He made me swear I'd never tell you." Robert slammed his hand against the dashboard. The Bentley swerved slightly as the city lights blurred past. "He's 11 years old too." "Yes. Probably 12 by now." Robert's mind raced. Every corporate threat he had ever faced seemed like a trivial annoyance compared to this revelation. His own son and another child used as pawns in a game he hadn't even known existed. "Catherine, where do we start? How do we stop him?" Her eyes glistened with tears. "We start with the boy I can protect teeth on, get him to safety. Then we gather information on Adrian. Then..." She swallowed hard. "Then we prepare for whatever comes next." Robert took a deep breath, letting the weight of responsibility settle over him. For a man who had controlled entire corporations, negotiated multi-billion-dollar deals, and directed the careers of hundreds, this was the first time he felt powerless. But not for long. He gave a sharp nod. "We start now." The Bentley weaved through Manhattan traffic, the glowing skyline casting shadows across Robert's determined face. They drove past familiar streets, past cafes, theaters, and office towers, every building now seeming like a backdrop in a drama that had spun entirely out of his control. Upon arriving at Catherine's sister's apartment, he found the door slightly ajar. Robert's hand instinctively went to his coat pocket. Checking for the discreet, compact firearm he carried, security precaution from years of handling corporate threats. But nothing could have prepared him for the sight inside. Ethan was seated at the living room table, coloring, completely unaware of the chaos outside. The boy looked up, eyes wide as he recognized his father for the first time. "Dad?" Ethan whispered. Robert's chest tightened. 11 years, and the first words he spoke to his son were filled with shock, confusion, and awe. He knelt, lowering himself to meet Ethan's gaze. "Hey, kiddo, I'm your dad." Ethan's lower lip quivered. "Mom told me you existed, but I didn't think." Robert smiled softly, swallowing the lump in his throat. I know. Catherine exhaled, relief evident. But Robert's focus shifted immediately. There was no time for emotions, not yet. Adrian was still out there, still planning, still dangerous. "Ethan," Robert said firmly, "we need to move. Somewhere safe. Can you do that?" The boy nodded slowly, trust and curiosity battling in his young eyes. Robert scooped him up gently, feeling the small weight of responsibility in his arms. Heavier than any corporate merger, more fragile than any boardroom deal, once outside. The Bentley raced toward a private Caldwell Enterprises facility on the outskirts of the city. Hidden from public view, equipped with state-of-the-art security, and staffed by loyal executives who owed Robert their lives. It was the only place he trusted implicitly. Inside the facility, Ethan was guided to a secure room, toys set aside, meals prepared. Catherine watched Robert with admiration. He was still the man she had married, commanding, unyielding but now tempered with the vulnerability that fatherhood brought out. Now what? She asked. Robert walked to the large digital map of Manhattan displayed on the wall. Touching points of interest, security feeds, and historical locations of corporate threats. Now we track Adrian. We find where he's hiding the other child, and we neutralize him before he can use either of our sons as leverage again. Catherine bit her lip. It won't be easy. Adrian's smart, ruthless. He knows your strategies as well as you do. Robert's gaze hardened. Then we use that against him. Every move he expects from me, I'll invert. Every trick he thinks he has, I'll anticipate. This isn't just business. This is family. And I've never lost a fight for family. Over the next several days, Robert and Catherine worked in tandem. He sifted through corporate records, traced Adrian's last known movements, hacked into communications, and built profiles. Catherine used her connections and instincts to probe social circles, gathering whispers and leads. The partnership, forged over 12 years of marriage and now strengthened by necessity, rekindled trust in subtle, profound ways. Finally, a breakthrough came. Adrian had been spotted in a secluded country estate, heavily guarded. Several hours outside New York, surveillance confirmed a young boy. Roughly Robert's age, matching the description of the missing child, was present. Robert felt a mix of relief and dread. They had a location, yes, but now came the real challenge. Extraction, Catherine. Robert said, fists clenched. We move tonight. The boy doesn't belong in Adrian's hands. No excuses, no mistakes. She nodded. I'll stay with Ethan. Make sure he's safe while you go. Robert paused, gazing at his son. Stay close to her. Don't leave her side. Ethan nodded, clutching Catherine's hand. I won't, I promise. Robert left the facility, blending into the night, a ghost of corporate dominance, yet fueled by a primal need to protect what he never knew existed.